Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be looking at r/am I the Hole. If you're wondering why I sound so close to the mic, it's because I am. It's the middle of the night again when I'm recording. We are now on the 6 weeks holidays, so I have to record at the middle of the night if I actually want to record without kids squealing in the background. So, if that sounds like something you'd like to get into with me today, then please do stick around and enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Thank you. This first post is a rather meaty one, and I mean rather meaty. There is a lot to get into, so let's just unpack it, shall we? Am I the hole for putting a stop to my 12-year-old daughter's period party? I did not know they were a thing. Let me set the stage. My wife and I, 43M and 42F, have two daughters, 7 years apart. 19-year-old was at college in a different state when this happened. Girls are very different. 19-year-old is outgoing, even extroverted, loves meeting new people, trying new things, etc. 12-year-old is shy, a homebody, finds things she's comfortable with and sticks with them. In fairness, 19-year-old was kind of like this until she was 16 or so. Maybe it's genetic. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, me and my sisters are so different, so different. So I've got one sister who is really sporty, really just kind of more into like masculine interests. I hate saying masculine interests, but I feel like you'll know what I mean when I say that. Then I've got my other sister who is really shy, never leaves the house, doesn't go out anywhere, isn't social. And my other sister who is also very much like that and wouldn't say boo to a goose. And then there's me, the gob on a stick. Although I am the middle child. So considering my two younger sisters, one is a stepsister, by the way, which is why I say I'm the middle child, because they are both the same age. Funnily enough, weird how that happens. They always got mistaken for twins when they were little. And obviously I am the middle of my biological siblings, but because the two younger are the same age, I'm still the middle child. And I must say, I do live up to a lot of the middle child stereotypes. Couple months ago, 12-year-old comes to me in my home office, obviously upset. Stammers a bit and then manages to tell me that she got her first period. I play the supportive dad, comfort her, and get her a box of sanitary pads my wife had bought earlier in the year. Guessing this was going to happen sooner or later, and go over the instructions with her. She goes into her bathroom, does what she has to do, thanks me for my help. I got her some ice cream and my doll, told her there was nothing to be embarrassed about and she could always come to me for anything. Perfect. Handled that situation. Perfect. I hate when you see like influencer videos online where the dads are freaking out. Their daughters told them they got their first period and they're freaking out. And don't get me wrong, I know that that's played up for the camera and whatever, but it sets a really icky precedent. You know, they don't call them influencers for nothing. They do, unfortunately, influence a lot of people with their actions. And I hate it when they do that. It's just like, oh my goodness. Because the only person who's gonna get affected by that is the kid. Anyway, I digress. Wife gets home later that day. 12-year-old tells her what happened. Wife starts crying. My little girl is growing up, etc. Then ask who should be invited to the period party, which I only knew of from listening to Bert Kreischer. Kreischer? No idea. I butchered that, I will bet. Sorry. If they were a thing when our 19-year-old started, she never asked for one. I have never heard of them in my life. That sounds just weird. I think as a kid, if someone had thrown me a party because I started my period, realistically, I think I would have been so embarrassed. 12-year-old immediately closes off, says she doesn't want a period party, doesn't want anyone to know. Of course. Wife tries to talk to her some more, but 12-year-old ignores her and goes to her room. Wife tries to enlist my aid in changing her mind, but I tell her she said she didn't want one. Don't worry about it. 2 days later, I got home from running errands, and before I can even make it to the stairs, 12-year-old runs up to me and asks if she can do her homework in my office. I'm confused, but say, sure, and she bolts upstairs. At this point, I started to suspect that what was going on, and walked into the living room to find that my wife had not only decorated it like something which wouldn't look out of place on a My Super Sweet 16, What? But there were several family friends, all women, and a few I recognised as neighbourhood mothers. No, this is this sounds like some weird, like, cult ritual out of a horror film. I beckoned my wife into the hall. She asks where the 12-year-old is, and I tell her that she wanted to do homework in my office. She rolls her eyes and starts to move past me, but I step in front of her. Me, what are you doing? Wife, going to get 12-year-old, it's her party. Me, she told you specifically that she didn't want one of these. Wife, oh, she didn't mean that. This is an important time for a girl. She needs to know not to be ashamed of her body. You can be not ashamed of your body and not tell the entire friggin' street what's going on in your body, you know? That's totally cool to do. This woman, my goodness. Me, she's not. I already explained things to her. She doesn't want to talk about it more. Wife, I don't expect you to understand. This is just for us women. She actually tried to push past me, but I stepped into the doorway and completely blocked her. Wife, what's wrong with you? I mean, go dad. Me, what's wrong with you? You know how shy 12-year-old is. You knew she didn't want you doing something like this, and you did it anyway? Wife, I told you it's for her own good. If a humiliation ritual is for her own good, then sure. We can't let her grow up with a negative attitude towards something so natural. Me, and we're not. I told you, she knows what's going on. She's getting a handle on it. She just doesn't want to talk about it with anyone else for right now. So this woman is projecting, I feel like, to be fair. Wife, well, it wasn't your business to tell her about it anyway. Me, you were at work. Was I supposed to ignore her for 4 hours until you got home? Wife, you could have called me. I would have come home. Way to minimize the dad's role, but okay. Me, it still would have taken you an hour. She was upset. I knew what was going on. I talked her through it. Wife, you don't know anything about it. It's never happened to you. At this point, I gave up. Point to my wife, no, I've never had a period, but I had 3 older sisters and a live-in girlfriend before my wife and I met. Plus, we've been married almost 21 years. I'm pretty well versed. She again tries to move past me, but I don't move. Me, no, 12-year-old doesn't want this. I'm not letting you make her do it. Wife, fine, have it your way. She goes back into the living room and tells the other ladies the PP is off because I'm being a jackass. I lose it, follow her in, and let the women know, calmly, but in no uncertain terms, that I appreciate what they wanted to do. But 12-year-old made it explicitly clear that she did not want this party, and my wife is trying to pressure her into it. Several of the mums frowned at her. My wife starts to backpedal, talking about how she didn't think 12-year-old was being serious. But I ignore her and begin taking down the decorations. Everyone clears out shortly, and once the coast is clear, 12-year-old comes back downstairs. My wife gives her a half-assed, in my opinion, apology, again saying she didn't think 12-year-old was serious. But 12-year-old also ignores her and just starts doing her homework in her usual place at the table. I'm not being funny. If she said I don't want it, that means she doesn't want it. What the hell? It's very clear. You only have to listen. My wife was pissed at me for a week, claiming I undermined her authority as a parent, apparently by not helping her force our daughter into doing something that she didn't want to do, and made her look bad in front of the neighbourhood mums by telling them that she'd been doing this against our daughter's wishes. If she hadn't have been doing it, then it wouldn't have made her look bad. I can't believe she's mad at the OP. So, am I the butthole? Clearly not. In fact, kudos to this dad. He handled the situation as it arose in the first place when she got a period without making a big deal of it. He handled it really, really well. He stuck up for his daughter. He heard her say, I don't want this. And he said, if you don't want it, you don't have to do it. And he made sure he stuck up for her because her mum was clearly projecting some want for this thing onto her daughter. Maybe her mum wanted that attention when she started her period, but most people just get their period and deal with it in private. They don't want to share it with people, and that's absolutely fine. I love the way this dad handled it. I think that mum needed to be told very sternly, just, nope, we are putting a line right here and you are not to cross it. I love that. Update, in case it gets buried in the comments, this blew up way more than I expected. John Redcorn Massage says, not the butthole. Puberty is an awkward, embarrassing time. Having your parents shine a spotlight on every confusing milestone would be a nightmare. Imagine a first pube party or a wet dream dinner. Ew. I don't even want to think about what the party favours would look like. No. And then Ash Mendoza 1 says, and puberty embarrassment aside, there's a whole host of privacy issues involved with what OP's wife did. Ignoring her kid's request for privacy is a massive violation of trust. Exactly. Especially for a kid. It teaches her that she can't entirely trust her mother to keep anything a secret. Hopefully the kid can trust and rely on her dad, because if he hadn't advocated for her, a logical outcome would be to just hide every medical and personal issue she faces in the future. Exactly. That's how you end up with kids that don't tell you when they need help or when they're in trouble. OP may have just prevented a whole future of problems by showing his kid that he's a reliable person to talk to. Exactly. So let's get down into the update, shall we? Hey everyone, thought I'd post an update. Yes, it's quick, but it's just a further explanation, plus some commentary. This was down in the comments, by the way, just so you know. Had to split it into two because it was too long. Next part is in the reply to this reply. First, I'd like to thank everyone who supported my decision. Second, to those who decided I'm AI or used ChatGPT to write this, nothing I could say will convince you one way or the other. So do your thing, man. Honestly, I see this quite a lot, and I think people just say it because they're trying to wind a person up. I see it quite a lot on artists that I follow on like Instagram and stuff, and they get comments all the time going, "This is AI." I just think, oh my god, it's just trolls trying to annoy people, and it's so stupid. I think people who troll and like, you know, comment all nasty over people's stuff to try and upset them are the lowest form of life. Personally, I just don't understand it. It's like, why? What do you get out of that, you little weirdo? Get out your basement. Come on now, go touch grass. It's out there. Third, I'm not going to divorce my wife or anything like that. She's an incredible woman, and as corny as it sounds, my one true love. She's been an amazing mum, never done anything like this before, wasn't planning on posting it to social media, she barely even uses Facebook. She just made a misstep here, for reasons which I will get into shortly. I can't respond to every comment, but I'll expand on some which caught my attention. 12-year-old did in fact get the talk from wife when she turned 12, so she knew what was happening, but it was still something she hadn't experienced before, so it threw her a little. I emailed my two closest sisters and they both said, in their opinions, her reaction was normal, as one of them put it. Even at best, it can be a shock, regardless of whether or not you're prepared for it, because it just happens. Oh my goodness, yeah. I remember panicking when I was younger, and the thing is as well, I was quite late compared to all my friends. I was quite a late bloomer, so I was like, everyone else had already been through it and forgotten about it, and I'm just there like, what is this? What do I do? Even though I knew what it was, it still scared the life out of me for a minute or two. And even if you've felt PMS-style symptoms without ever having felt them before, you might not guess what they are until afterwards. No, I did not notice the decorations being put up. I had to go out and run some errands related to my work, was gone about 3 or 4 hours. More than enough time for my wife to decorate. I would love to know what those decorations were. Did she just like lick and stick some sanitary towels to the wall or something? Like, how do you decorate for woohoo, you got a period? Thumbs up. Before we had kids, wife and I agreed we would treat boys or girls the same when it came to bodily functions, i.e., we'd make sure boys were comfortable going to her with questions or problems if I wasn't around, and vice versa. And over the years, we would keep up with age-appropriate literature so we'd be equally informed. Just so happened we only had girls, around 10 or so, when they started wanting more detailed explanations of where babies come from. I read that for a minute. We only had girls, around 10 of them. I was going to say, my goodness. Detailed explanations of where babies come from and such, we always conducted such conversations as a team, making it clear to each of them that they could count on either of us. That being said, there have been some things which I never took part in. For example, the 19-year-old never asked me to take her bra shopping. That was all the wife. She did, however, occasionally ask me to pick up tampons or such in the years before she went to college. No, 12-year-old did not wait to tell me. It happened right after she got home from school on a half day. Wife works 10-hour shifts, so she wouldn't have been there, as I said in my OP, for another 4 hours. 12-year-old has always been closer to wife than me. 19-year-old was closer to me than wife. But who was available? I'm sure that if we'd both been around, 12-year-old would have gone to her mum. I wasn't trying to claim the dialogue was verbatim what we said, my memory isn't that good, but the general tone is there, and some of it I did in fact remember word for word. I had a comment ages ago, I can't remember what post it was on, it was ages ago, and someone was like, oh, this story is clearly fake because no one remembers like a manuscript of a conversation like that, and I was sitting there thinking, I do. Like, I remember conversations I have word for word quite often, especially if it's a conversation that's bothered me. And I'm like, what? Is that not normal to remember things like that so clearly? Because I think it is. I'm pretty certain that's quite normal. So, after a few days, things around the house went back to normal. Wife cooled off, 12-year-old began talking to her again, and they didn't appear to have any issues, except that 12-year-old began coming to me more often about things instead of her mum. I can understand. Wife obviously noticed, as they've been very close before this, and was hurt, but said nothing. I guess she figured she deserved it. Finally, one day after I got back from taking 12-year-old to school, wife asked if 12-year-old was still angry with her. I said I didn't think so, and wife just kinda deflated. She looked so miserable that I actually got worried and asked if she was still angry. Wife said no, and then admitted that she'd effed up and gotten too deep into the concept of what others here have called menstruation celebration. I am a fan of the poetry, not so much a fan of the idea. Which is a great phrase. It even rhymes. Yes, it does. She said she'd been so focused on making sure 12-year-old had a positive experience that she brushed aside her reluctance to take part. And in my wife's defense, 12-year-old regularly does this. She'll say she isn't looking forward to doing something, but if she pushes past her shyness and takes part, nearly always has a good time. So, wife had thought this was just another example of 12-year-old doing that, and didn't take it seriously. But when it's like, hello everybody, this is what's happening inside my womb, that's a bit different. Then, wife said something which threw me for a loop. She asked me if I thought 12-year-old hated her now. I was stunned and automatically replied, of course not. She's just... And then I kind of trailed off because I didn't really know what to say. Upset was what I finally settled on. Wife was quiet, and then I asked her why she'd been so insistent. Since she hadn't tried to do this for 19-year-old. No drama there, 19-year-old got hers at 13 while they were out shopping. It was handled before they were even left the mall. She said when 19-year-old started, it was just such a busy day that she didn't really have any time to think about it beyond, quick, let's get to the bathroom so I can help. And it wasn't until after this that wife really thought about her own first, which basically consisted of her being told virtually nothing beforehand by her emotionally manipulative mother, They've been no contact for 15 years, barely being 12 when it happened, and once she did go to her mum, only being handed a box of pads and warned not to get pregnant. Nothing more was ever said about it between them. My wife had to learn nearly everything from a friend's mother. Yeah, that old woman is a piece of work, she sounds it. Wife was determined she wouldn't behave like that toward 12-year-old when it happened, but as events show, she basically went too far in the other direction. Then she asked me what I thought she could do to fix this. I told her the truth. 12-year-old probably wasn't going to feel comfortable confiding in her again for a while, but if she really wanted to apologise, she should tell 12-year-old what she just told me. Yeah, being transparent with your kids when you do mess up and say, look, I messed up, I hold my hands up, I was projecting something that I thought that I would want, and I genuinely wasn't trying to hurt you or dismiss you or anything. I just got caught up too much in what I thought I would want, and I projected, and I am sorry. They're not daft. They'll understand. And so she did. Wife went to pick up 12-year-old up from school, and when they got home, I saw they'd both been crying, but also seemed happier. Turned out I wasn't quite right, and 12-year-old had still been harbouring some resentment towards my wife for trying to push her into the period party. But after hearing wife's story, 12-year-old decided to forgive her, only asking that wife promise not to do something like that again. And then 2 months later, this happened in May, things between them seemed to be back to normal. Maybe not the most exciting resolution, but I don't think 12-year-old is going to hold a grudge over this or have permanently damaged their relationship. Hey, it doesn't need to be an exciting solution, it just needs to be a solution that suits you guys and your family, and I'm glad you managed to get there in the end. And I do think just owning up to your F-ups goes a whole long way, even with your kids, because it doesn't matter if you're the parent. You're still a human and you will mess up to some degree at some point in a really quite a small way, really, if you think about the grand scheme of things here. It was a big way and it was a small way at the same time, if that makes sense. Everyone does it. Everyone's going to mess up, not handle a situation the best or whatever. It's how you deal with the aftermath of that and, how you just hold your hands up and say, yep, I messed up. Sorry. That goes a long way. Nobody's perfect at the end of the day. I mean, I am, but I joke, obviously. Okay, so I think that's all we've got time for today. That one ended up being a hell of a lot longer than I had planned. Whoopsie. But there we are. I told you it was a chunky one. I did say, didn't I? But yeah, if you made it all the way to the end with me, then I appreciate you very, very much. If you give me a little like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, that is your initiation into the cult of void. Welcome! Whatever it is you're doing for the rest of the day, I hope you have a really good rest of the day. Goodbye!